Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written by Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Miami, Florida. Today on Wavescan, full details of the big 2013 AWR Annual Wavescan DX Contest. A tribute to Family Radio Shortwave, the early years in New York. And an Indian DX report. Wavescan presents Focus on Africa, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the African continent. As Adventist World Radio enters into its 42nd year of international radio broadcasting, we take pleasure in announcing our annual Wavescan DX contest, which comes to you under the title Focus on Africa. In short, you're invited to check your collection of QSLs from shortwave stations in Africa and to log AWR programming on shortwave to Africa during the month of July 2013. This 2013 contest begins tomorrow, July 1st, and here now are the details of our Focus on Africa DX contest. And we'll give it to you in three parts here, labeled A through E. Part A is African shortwave QSLs. You're invited to make a list of what you consider to be the 5 top QSLs in your collection of QSL cards and letters from shortwave stations in Africa. These QSLs can be from any shortwave broadcasting station or any shortwave communication station located in any country on the African continent and or on nearby associated islands. Amateur stations nor CB stations are not valid for this contest. Please state very briefly the reason why you consider these 5 QSLs to be your best from Africa. Part B is photocopies. You're invited to provide a photocopy of each of the QSLs that are on your list in Part A. Preferably, these photocopies should be in color, though black and white copies may be acceptable. Part C, African QSLs wanted. You're invited to make a list of what you consider to be the 5 top shortwave stations in Africa from which you do not hold a QSL, but you would like to add to your collection. Please state very briefly the reason why you consider these 5 shortwave stations to be your most wanted. Part D, AWR reception reports. You're invited to prepare 3 reception reports for the broadcast on shortwave of any AWR programming beamed towards Africa. These broadcasts from Adventist World Radio may be from shortwave stations located anywhere in Africa or on nearby African islands, or AWR programming beamed into Africa on shortwave from other countries. And Part E, 3 radio cards. Where possible, you're invited to include 3 radio cards for the Indianapolis Heritage Collection with your contest entry. These cards may be old or new, and they may be QSL cards, reception report cards, or picture cards of radio stations, etc. Not valid for this contest are amateur cards nor CB cards. Well, there you have it, the details for our Wavescan 2013 Focus on Africa DX contest. This contest will run through the month of July 2013, and all contest entries should be postmarked at your local post office anywhere in the world on any date up to the end of the month of July. And they should be received at the AWR post office address in Indianapolis no later than the end of the month of August 2013. Post your entry with all items to Adventist World Radio in Indianapolis, remembering that neatness and preparation will all feature in the judging procedure. Due consideration will also be given to the area of the world in which the contestant lives. Return postage in the form of currency notes in any international currency or mint postage stamps or IRC coupons would be welcome. Where possible, a self-addressed return envelope, business size or half-quarto size, would also be welcome, or your address label. The awards for the AWR 2013 Focus on Africa contest will be similar to all previous contests. There will be a special award for the world winner, one of the Jerry Berg Radio History books, and World Radio TV Handbook 2014 for each continental winner. In addition, there will be other special awards as well as AWR souvenirs and radio curios for many participants. You can remember that all AWR reception reports will be verified with a specially endorsed AWR QSL card. Please remember that it will take a period of many months well into the new year 2014 to process all of the contest entries and reception reports, but each will in due course be processed. The only address for the Focus on Africa 2013 DX contest is the AWR address in Indianapolis.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
Les tenemos que decir adiós. Muchas gracias por habernos sintonizado hoy en nuestro programa del Sonido de la Nueva Vida. Esta es la única palabra de Dios.
A sign-off announcement there for WYFR's Spanish program. 2 weeks ago, an official announcement from Family Radio stated that their huge shortwave station, WYFR, located near Lake Okeechobee in Florida, will close at the end of the month on Sunday, June 30th. Today, June 30th, is their last day of regular on-air shortwave service. This shortwave superstation, with its 14 transmitters and a widespread antenna farm containing 23 different antenna systems, and its illustrious history spanning a total of some 86 years, will lie silent at the end of the broadcast day today. Shortwave station WYFR, Okeechobee, Florida, has been by far the largest non-government shortwave station in North America, and rivaled only by some of the larger VOA shortwave stations, such as the 3 separated facilities at Greenville, North Carolina. In honor of this magnificent shortwave station, we began here in Wavescan a multi-part series of topics that traces the long and interesting history of the station and all of its predecessors, beginning way back at the time when radio itself was a new and novel method of instant communication. In this topic, a tribute to Family Radio Shortwave, we look at the early years in New York, under the subtitle People and Places. A boy was born over in Luxembourg, Europe, on August 16, 1864, with the name Hugo Gernsbacher. As a young man in Germany way back around the turn of the century, into the 1900s, he built a wireless transmitter and receiver. He arrived in New York in February 1904 and changed his name to Hugo Gernsback. 1 year later, Gernsback established a wireless importing business, and he lodged the world's first printed advertisement for a complete wireless station, transmitter, and receiver. He went on to establish many different radio and fiction magazines, including the well-known Radio News, and he also launched his own radio broadcasting station, WRNY, in New York City. There was another man of wireless radio fame, and that was Walter S. Lemon, who was born over here in the United States in the year 1896. In the year 1919, just after the end of World War I, he was one of the radio operators aboard the USS George Washington, a superior German passenger liner that had sought refuge in New York at the beginning of the war and that was later commandeered by the American government. The General Electric Company installed several radio and wireless transmitters aboard the George Washington in April 1919 for experimental work with the Navy station NFF at New Brunswick, New Jersey. At this stage, several program broadcasts were presented from the George Washington on 167 kilohertz long wave, most of which were retransmitted live by the Navy's shore-based station. At the time, President Wilson was returning to the United States on the George Washington after his successful peace negotiations in Paris, and Walter Lemon, one of the ship's radio operators, invited President Wilson to make a July 4th speech to the nation. Wilson did indeed make a brief speech in between music items during the Independence Day broadcast, though he stood so far away from the microphone that his words were not heard clearly in the broadcast. The news reporter subsequently reread the speech, which this time was transmitted quite clearly. The Hotel Roosevelt was just a new hotel in New York, opened in the year 1924, and it was here that Hugo Gernsback installed his new radio broadcasting station, WRNY, with studios on the 18th floor and the 500-watt transmitter and antenna towers on the roof. One of the speakers at the inauguration of Radio New York on June 12, 1925, was the well-known wireless experimenter Dr. Lee DeForest. During the next year, the transmitter for station WRNY was reinstalled across the river on Hudson Terrace in Coatesville, New Jersey. Another well-known hotel in New York was the McAlpin, which at 24 stories was the tallest in New York when it was opened in 1912. This hotel featured in an early experimental radio broadcast when the Italian soprano Luisa Tetrazzini made a broadcast from her hotel room via a transmitter operated by the Army Signal Corps. Early in 1925, another series of test broadcasts went on the air from this hotel under the experimental call sign 2XH. Then on February 1st, the new medium wave station, WMCA, standing quite obviously for McAlpin, was inaugurated the 13th for New York City. The same Hugo Gernsback and his Experimenter Publishing Company obtained a permit in mid-1925 for a special land station, as they were designated in those days, and the allocated call sign was 2XAL. This was a portable transmitter licensed for the McAlpin Hotel and apparently for use on shortwave for remote broadcasts in association with medium wave station WMCA. 2 years later, on May 25, 1927, Gernsback received a construction permit for a shortwave station to be located on Hudson Terrace, Coatesville, just across the river from Manhattan. That's where we pick up the story again 2 weeks from now.
Family Radio 欢迎您收听我们的节目。今天我们邀请您与我们一同来学习更多有关于神的事。
Family Radio there in Chinese. Now let's go to India. Here's Prithviraj Pukayasta.
Greetings friends and welcome to June edition of Indian DX Report. I am your host Prithviraj. As always, I would like to start this month's DX tips with few updates from All India Radio. All India Radio Chisura is testing for last few days on 1134 kHz in AM mode and in DRM mode on 1142 kHz from 1130 to 2330 UTC using 3400 kW transmitters. They are relaying mostly FM Gold Kolkata programs for these test transmissions. Reception reports are requested by the station and must be addressed to Installation Officer, Super Power Transmitter, All India Radio, Station Road, Chisura, that's CHINSURAH, 712102, West Bengal, India. Or you can email your reports to ddesptmogra@gmail.com. Recently, my fellow DXer Gautam Kumar Sharma of Abhyapuri, Assam, sent me his monitoring observation for few AIR stations of eastern India. I am pleased to include this in this edition of IDXR. Gautam informed that AIR Kashmir was heard by him on 4870 kHz around 1402 UTC on June 16th with few Hindi songs. The audio was slightly rough. He also heard ABC Ally Springs on 4835 kHz on the same day around 14 hour UTC while looking for AIR Gangtok, which is off the air for some time now. As per his monitoring on AIR regional radio stations from Northeast region, AIR Imphal, AIR Guwahati and AIR Kohima are off the air on their respective shortwave frequencies. But AIR Aizaol's signal in the morning has been improved slightly on 5050 kHz and can be heard without any QRM. AIR Itanagar can be heard regularly on 4990 kHz. According to some newspaper reports, the famous Lord Jagannath Temple of Puri will host a FM radio station soon. The temple administration has decided to start this FM station to disseminate information on Lord Jagannath. The proposed project would be commissioned at a cost of around Rs 4 crore. Programs are to be aired through the proposed radio station include devotional songs, daily rituals and discourses relating to the Lord. Lord Jagannath Temple of Puri in the Odisha state of India is popular Hindu pilgrimage and famous for its annual Ratha Yatra festival. Starting from July 1st, Radio Taiwan International will end its shortwave broadcast to North America due to drastic budget cuts. Meanwhile, their transmission to mainland China from 0100 to 0200 UTC on medium wave 1422 will be suspended. In South Asia, from 16 hour to 17 hour UTC transmission will be switched to 6180 kHz from 9440 kHz. The Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation has dropped its All Asia English service, which goes back to the early days of commercial broadcasting in 1950s, and is having a single Hindi service from 0115 to 0330 UTC on 11905 kHz now. In this service, sponsored English gospel programs are also inserted. Meanwhile, SLBC service to the Middle East targeting Sri Lankan workers is transmitted from 1630 to 1830 UTC on 11750 kHz on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Saturday only. The service to South India in Malayalam and Tamil between 1115 to 1215 UTC has been moved to 9720 kHz from 21st June. While many major international broadcasters ceasing or reducing their broadcast targeting Asia, Taiwan-based PCJ Radio International is emerging as a new star in the shortwave medium. After its successful test transmission targeting listeners in Asia, PCJ has also tested shortwave transmissions towards Europe and North America via transmitters at Newen, clearly indicating its future plan to take hold of shortwave bands. Meanwhile, PCJ's international Sunday-only broadcast via Trincomalee has been extended till August 2013, and from 30th June onwards, their on 1 hour Sunday transmission can be heard from 1330 to 1430 UTC on 11835 kHz. And at last, just want to remind you that the big 2013 Adventist World Radio Annual DX Contest will underway from 1st July and will run till the end of July. The Adventist World Radio enters into 42nd year of international radio broadcasting. They have announced their annual WebScan DX contest under the title Focus on Africa. In short, you are invited to check your collections of QSLs from shortwave stations in Africa and to log AWR programming on shortwave to Africa during the month of July. For complete details on this contest, please visit our Facebook page www.facebook.com/Indian DX Report. And with this, I would like to conclude this edition of DX Report from India. For this edition, I would like to thank all members of Asian DX League and DX India Yahoo Group. If you have any suggestion or comment on this presentation, or if you would like to obtain a special IDXR QSL by sending a reception report, then please write to Indian DX Report, care of Prithviraj Purkayastha, Poob Bengal Pukhuri, by Lane 4, Jorhat 785001, Assam, India. Or you can drop me an email at indiandxreport@gmail.com. For a paper QSL, return postage will be highly appreciated. So friends, until next time, it's goodbye from Assam and 73s.
Thank you, Prithviraj. Over in Africa, Adventist World Radio is operating a total of 14 FM radio stations in 10 different countries, each of which is on the air 24 hours daily. For those of our listeners living in Kenya, in Africa, you have 3 stations at 3 different locations from which to choose, and they are Eldoret on 103.9 FM, Kitule on 105.3 FM, and Nyamira on 89.7 FM. Also, listeners in Burundi, you can tune in the FM station in Bujumbura on 101.8 MHz with all programming in the Rundi language. The AWR station in Yaoundé in the Cameroons is at 92.4 FM with programming in 4 languages, Beti, English, French, and Fulfulde. You've certainly heard about the flooding that's been happening in recent days in northern India. Well, Jose Jacob tells us that members of the National Institute of Amateur Radio, NIAR, in Hyderabad are currently providing emergency communications in the flood-affected Uttarakhand state in North India. The operating frequencies are 7073 kHz in lower sideband and 14160 kHz in upper sideband. The call signs are Jose Jacob, VU2JOS, VU2MCW, VU3NUG, and VU3CFN. Jerry Berg says, I wanted to let you know something that I think you'll find interesting, namely that the website that John Herkimer and I run, which is www.ontheshortwaves.com, is now searchable. Not only is the text that we have created searchable, but many of the individual items that are posted are all now searchable as well, and this includes Wavescan. If you enter Wavescan and a search term in the search box that is now on the homepage, you'll get links to all of the Wavescan articles where that term appears. It is amazing. John did a wonderful job putting this together. If you try it, I think you'll agree that it's very powerful. It makes ontheshortwaves.com a research site in addition to a hobby site. And nowhere is that truer than with regard to Wavescan articles, which contain a huge amount of shortwave history. They'll now receive wider use than ever. Again, that's on www.ontheshortwaves.com. A quick update now on the Voice of Greece. As you recall, we told you that the ERT public broadcaster in Greece has had some serious problems in the last couple of weeks. Well, apparently the external service, the Voice of Greece, is still on the air, and it's been heard on 7450 kilohertz from the Avlida transmitter site at 1950 UTC on June 24th with conversation in Greek and pretty good reception, 45444, by Anker Peterson in Denmark. Also on the parallel frequency of 9420 kilohertz with about the same reception. On 9420, it's also been heard, the Voice of Greece, at 0350 to 0422 UTC on June 22nd, with a Greek music program, time pips and ID, and news at 0400 UTC, with good reception by Rich D'Angelo in the eastern U.S. Also heard at 0950 UTC on June 23rd on that frequency of 9420 kilohertz, in parallel with 11645 and 15630 kilohertz by Ivo Ivanov and Anker Peterson. Thanks very much to the Danish Shortwave Club International for that information. Classical music from Finland by Friedrich Bruch ends Wavescan today. This is variations on a Karelian folk song, Strawberry, for piano, with Alexander Bruch playing. Thank you for listening to Wavescan, the International DX program from Adventist World Radio, researched and written by Dr. Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis. Next week, more news from the NASB, our ancient DX report for 1904, and our regular DX report from Japan. A reminder that 2 QSL cards are available for reports on this program, one from AWR, another from WRMI. The address for Wavescan and your reports is Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. Our email is wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Miami. Till next week, very good listening to you.